Hello, everyone.
Hi everyone. So while waiting for the others, we will start in 3 minutes from now. So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining our professional development webinar series today on how to remain profitable in construction projects. We appreciate all of you for taking time off your busy schedules to join us today. Later, towards the very end of this event, we hope all information we have lined up for you to be fruitful and engaging. To avoid any noise interference, your microphone has been muted, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the question box on your right, and we will answer it at the end of the presentation. As for today's sharing session, it will be conducted by our Chief Marketing Officer, Surveyor Desmond Loy. Desmond was previously a quantity surveyor with 10 years experience, and a part of being a CMO in BuildSpace, He is also a lecturer in Taylor's University, teaching measurement in beam as well as supervising research thesis. Without further ado, please welcome Mr. Desmond to begin our agenda for today.
Thank you everyone. A very good afternoon everyone. I hope you're well and safe at home and during this period of MCO. Exactly for today, then we were actually planning to have a launching event in Wisma Radar. I believe some of you had also received an invitation, but unfortunately during this outbreak of COVID disease, we won't be able to do it and we'll have to postpone until further notice. So since my team and I will actually come up with a set of materials and also some information I want to share with you, then we were like, hey, why not we put it onto the webinar and then to share with you. For some of you already know me, then allow me to introduce myself. You can call me Desmond. And so for all the new friends here, it's very nice to meet all of you. Today I'll be talking about how to remain profitable in construction projects. But before we actually dive into the definitions of profit, we also want to talk about what is the difference between revenue and profit. Usually when we read newspaper from the Age or the Star, we will usually see news like a particular contractor, they back 120 millions of project, or this particular contractor, they also secure or they book the job over 1 billion in year 2019. But those are, in our terms of understanding, that is pretty much a revenue. Because as far as profit is concerned, it's actually our gross revenue, deduct all these expenses, then this is what we left in hand, and it's still called, and it can only be regarded as profit. Now for today, we will be talking about why profit is essential. And along the way, when we talk about profit is essential, we also want to talk about what is the relationship about in between profit and also cash flow. And then we'll be also diving into the discussion on how to improve our profitability and also take care of our cash flow, and then we'll do some conclusion. Although this whole agenda has been scheduled for 90 minutes, but we've done a bit of rehearse, and we roughly gauge our time at 75 minutes. So I hope you stay until the end with me. Then if we have a little bit of time, then I will try to answer your questions, and you just send your questions to our host. Then I will be receiving it. I'll read out later towards the end. All right. So first thing first, we want to talk about how are we making enough of a profit. Now, in Chinese, we usually say 讲钱伤感情. You know, in English, that would be, we don't talk about money because it hurt our relationships or friendship. But as far as business is concerned, sometimes we also want to take a look at how profitable are we. Because when we talk about profit, it will also reflect on how healthy our business is. Actually, the whole discussion right here will be focusing on the perspective by a contractor. That's why, in other words, rather than asking ourselves, are we making enough profit, we might also want to look at how healthy is our business is. Now, we've done some research on the internet and also some readings on the research papers. There are a few ways to talk about how can we know that we are making enough profit. The first one is, of course, profit equals to revenue and expenses. That's why by the time we book the job, we also had to make sure that we have our expenses controlled. That's why we can take care of our profit. Now, those who actually book a lot of job, then we also want to talk about the gross profit margin, and then we will dive into the detail. We want to talk about the operating expenses. Now, since our profit margin is here, our operating expenses is here. Now, that also justify and explain why the more job that we book in construction industry, that will usually do not really tell that we were actually making more profit, because the formula will start to change if the revenue becomes bigger, and then usually the operating expenses will become even bigger. That's why it will eat into our profit. This is how we usually look at the profitability when it comes to contractor firms. Now, it's very important to know also who is our client, and then to take a look at the total hour that we spend for particular jobs, and also the gross profit. From there, we will know which is the client that pay us the best when it comes to hourly wages. Now, if we have profit already, we can spread over some we can spread over to our other projects. Now, to also know that how profitable we are in our business, we also want to look at how many potential projects do we have in the list. The longer the list, of course, is the better. But if we have a rather short list, then that means we might want to also look into how to actually prolong the list or actually include a few more potential projects in the list in the future. Now, why profit is essential? If we take a look at the chart here, we have sustainability for business to sustain over time and for business to grow and to secure everything that we're running, and then it will go round and round. But if we break it down, this pie chart here, we also want to talk about survival. We do not actually want to spend more than what we're taking in. In this particular term, if let's say we wouldn't be really bothered for the past few months before the lockdown, but if let's say we bring this idea up to the table for discussion, I believe on a personal basis, everyone will have more feeling because of the close down period right now. And a profit can be also used by an outsider to see how well a business has been managed. And most importantly, a growth in a profit in the balance sheet equity will also mean that there will be a growth in our turnaround capital. That means it will also allow us to win a bigger job in the future when it comes to a bigger project or with tenders. Now, we've all been saying, then we also want to take a look at something we call EBITDA. EBITDA is earning before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. It is basically a tool and where a lender or investor will be looking at how well the business is performing, and then the profitability is usually the biggest component when it comes to evaluation, which is even way bigger than what we have as an asset in the company. It carries more values in that sense. And also with the profit, we can fund the working capital needs. As a contractor, I believe you know what does it mean when it comes to certain profit that we use will be spread over for other projects. We will dive into detail later. And also when we have profit, that means that we can actually build cash. That means we have more freedom in hiring better persons for our job, and also to give back to the society in terms of charity and what's on. All right. Now, since we talk a lot about profit, many people will think when it comes to running a business, and it's all about profit. But we also want to talk about a bit on cash flow, because in the long-term business growth, definitely we're looking at profit, but on a day-to-day operation basis, we'll be looking on cash flow. Because in the sense of our production line, when it comes to construction delivery, that we were talking about 2 or 3 years to deliver only one product, we were putting out our resources and also our production team together to push out the thing. Then we only can probably collect 100% of our profit 2 years after the completion. That depends on our COC also. Now, that's why a lot of contractors actually will say cash flow is the lifeblood for an operation. This is actually also been supported by our arguments when we do some research online, and we found we consolidate a bit of reasons to tell why construction company fail. We talked about it a few years ago in one of my seminars. Then this time around, we expanded a little bit. Then we have 6 major sites that we refer to. We can actually see those being marked in red, or are those referring to cash flow changes and planning, forward estimating. Those are the things we can actually look at before or during the tender stage, and that's not pretty much about the leadership and also management, but it's all about cash flow. Now we want to break it down into a simulation of cash flow that we have. This is something very, very straightforward. We will put it out in Excel for you to understand. Assuming that we have a job of 50 million, then the contract period is 10 months. Then this is the work done distributions that we have along across the time. Now, usually as well with PAM form COC and also payment term is concerned, when we claim on the first month, we'll be only receiving money on the third month. So that means that the amount that we actually put in has already been staggered. But that doesn't mean that we're not spending money during this time. If we actually also break it down to our expenditure of 10%, 15% to complete the entire work right here, we will start to notice our cash flow is actually building up. Now, the net cash flow outflow is taking this amount of money, then deduct this one. So only by the time then we only get to pay on the third month, but accumulated cash outflow from our contractor's own pocket is already peaking at 33% of our contract sum. So this is the idea of cash flow. Then how about profit? Now, it will be normal if, let's say, we kept our profit margin at 10% or 12%, but when we do the bit of tabulations here, a very straightforward one, we say contract sum is 15 million, and 10% of profit margin, then that we'll also want to talk about capping a retention of 5%. That will only make us our net bring home profit at 750,000. Now, when we're divided by 10 months for all the overheads, then we talk about, let's say average, we're only having 75,000 per month. It might seem a lot, but if we also dive into detail on how are we going to spend this amount of money and this amount of money, then we have some idea, or some items for us to share off. Now, 750,000 right here, we also want to spend on, to cover our loss of potential opportunity cost, to cover the LD, to cover the margins of errors in BQ, which it normally happens, and also to cover subcons overhead. So what we have in normal BQs that we study quite a few. Some of our friends have also told me that 2% might be is not enough for cover, because there are always a lot of gray areas in the BQ. Now, we might also want to spend a bit of money to cover our bank facilities and performance bond. We do know that some contractors, friend, they also fork out their own money for performance bond. That is why the ideal loss of potential opportunity cost is actually listed here. Now, having said that, we also want to take a look at, if ideal case we're bringing back home into the office, average money or profit of 75,000, we will still need to cover our company overhead and also finance for other jobs. So this is our relationship between our profit and also cash flow. So in terms of running a profitable office and profitable construction projects, then we should also look at the cash flow right here. So it's actually tied up back to back for cash flow and profitability. And right here, in this discussion, we want to talk about, if we want to maximize our project profitability, then we split our discussion into two stages. One is pre-contract stage. It covers how to price the work strategically, and also project our future cash flow, and also budget accordingly, and also perform a contractor review, which is what our contractor friends usually do. Now, when it comes to post-contract stage, the most important thing is to improve the productivity and also to keep the record and documentations. And we will also want to talk about how to approach our claims correctly with all these records and documents. Now, before we got to enter the contract, or we decide to participate in a contract or tender, it is very, very, very important to know the client. We do have some client friends online today, so objectively, we just want to discuss, based on the contractor's perspective, want to take a look at how well are they as in terms of paymaster, and also when the project location is concerned, we also want to talk about the logistic, like the project that we have in Kuantan, Cherating, when the when the piling has to be done in somewhere in October, then effectively 5 months we have only almost half of the time that we can actually work because of the monsoon. So it is very important for us to know the location. That's why we can also price in our idling time. Now, it is also very important for us to share a little bit about the biggest components in the tender cost, because as what that we usually tender, let's say for high-rise project, and as compared to a renovation of shopping malls, take for example, and the components of the cost is usually different. Now, take for example, there's one shopping mall renovation in Petaling Jaya, which my friend is doing. Later, they will find out the major component of the cost actually goes to M&E, which is 70% of the cost. That's when they start to look into the options, whether they want to totally sub out the M&E work, or they want to directly manage their smaller time contractors so that they can still be the main con of the work. Now, it will also affect this aspect when how to price it strategically. The last one for this part is also to take a look at the quantities. Measure your quantity, check against on the BQ quantity. That's where we know where is the potential changes will be coming in. That's one thing. Another thing is where is the potential of reduction and omission of quantities, and then what is the errors and margin we're talking about. Now, once everything has been priced, then the next thing we want to talk as a management of contractor firm is on how to allow the profit margin. Do we want to load it upfront, or we want to spread it over based on the projection of cash flow that we have? The second point I want to share right here is on to know when to deliver. It is usually something our contractors firm will usually do. They will choose to acquire something which is very easy to acquire or procure, but without knowing that you might only need that towards the end of the construction stage. Take for example, the job that we had last year in Cherating, Kuantan as well. We might only need the tiles and also roof trusses at the month 8 or also month 10, but on second month, then we contractors start to procure the materials and start to make full payment. This is how we tied up the cash flow right here. Now, they're all also related to the payment term and productivity rates that we have. And contract review that will also referring to the LD that we have, the amount of LD, whether it is big enough, can we afford to extend 1 or 2, then what is the amount of provision inside the margin, then to cover the LD charges and also DMP, how fast we can recoup back all the monies that we have. Same goes to subcontractors. Now, as we know, if let's say as far as payment pricing is concerned in BuildSpace, then the most importantly, I believe everyone is doing is we do have a database in our server. Likewise, in BuildSpace, we also have a manager. We also have a library that allows our user to put in our raw material prices into the system, and this is what the prices that we can actually put it in based on different concrete grade and based on different suppliers that register with us. Now, what we need to do is just to select some of the names that we want, and then we can actually use the rate to do our build-up rates. Now, scheduled rates in BuildSpace is somewhere that we use it to do our build-up rate for pricing in our tender. Take for example, in concrete grade 15, what we need to just to do double click, and then we will dive into a different level where we start to link over whatever that we have in resources library, and then to mark up the cost if we need to. And then this is the rate and library. This is the library and rate that we can use it for our tender without needing us to set out the formulas, because everything is taken care already. Now, assuming that we have a tender coming in, what we need to do is just to import our Excel BQ into the system and start to do pricing. Take for example, what we need to do is just to create a bill and give our bill a name, and then this is we can actually put in our bill in form of Excel without needing much of adjustment on the BQ. What we can see right here on the screen is as long as our BQ is separated by tabs, then in putting in different columns, what we need to do is just to click on import from files and we select a cell, and then to select this file, and then to tell the system that what is the column of information that we need the system to bring in from Excel, and we just click import, and voila, this is what we have from wood below all the way to sanitary bills. By just click, everything will be inside the system and ready for pricing. Now, I believe all of us are using this one or doing this one in Excel, but this one will be no difference like what we have seen right here. But the beauty of having this done in BuildSpace is we will be able to import the rates from our library. Take, for example, we're going to link over to rates for concrete from our library for different items to share the same description. What we need to do is just to select a couple of items that we want to link over, and then we select the rate from our master list of library. So in Vibrant Concrete, then we can easily just click import, and the rate will be synchronized over to the items that we have. If let's say this item we're having the same rate is happening in other builds, we can also repeat the same steps. And this is how at the executive level or as a junior QS level, we can actually finish the pricing part and pass it on to a management or a senior to do a little bit of markups or even an adjustment on the rates. Now, in project analyzers that we have in BuildSpace is a collective interface where we can straight away take a look at total quantities of each and every items and also the total cost. It can also break down to us to tell us what does this item belong to which build, and then for us to know what is the component, like what we say, what is the component, what is the biggest components that we have. The biggest one, if let's say we want to adjust on the markup rate as a strategy of our pricing, we can do it at the item level as a collective, or we can even dive into the detail and then to change some of the markups individually. So as the top management, if we want to mark up the project on the collective basis, we can also do it on the build element build level. This is where we're putting our markup percentage. That means there will be two tiers of markup when it comes to items and also build. So we can check the detail of the cost right here without needing us to set out the formulas like what we did in Excel. Everything is automated. Then we can still change certain items if we want to load up a little bit upfront based on certain elements. So once the pricing is done, then we can always take a look at the project analyzers here to resources, because by the time when the tender has already been commenced or we're in the middle of tender, then we will usually get some of the quotation of the work to update our resources rate. So if let's say in this case happen that we need to update our rates in our resources library, all we need to do is just to come back in and change collectively and even change our wastage. Then this rate will be updated in the BQ item, which already has been priced upfront. So it will cut out a lot of time when it comes to checking, or also to avoid some of the errors that we usually do when to avoid the inconsistency in the pricing of certain items which share the same description. So the end product will look like this, and we can still change some of the information if we want to have it here. That means everything that we change on the macro level will all be tied up to the micro level in all the way to the itemized detail. We can always print this out as part of our submission. Now, if let's say the pricing is done, and we also want to talk about submitting our work plan as a submission, like what we usually require our contractor to do so. The best part of having this done in BuildSpace is we will always be able to link this scope of work to a BQ item, which normally people wouldn't usually do that. What we usually do, a project Gantt chart will be splitting out the scope of work. But what we can do here is actually to put in the productivity and also the numbers of gang. Then this item or total duration from productivity will be automatically coming out. Then this is the list that we will be sending out as part of the submission. So once the tie-in to the BQ item has done, we can also take a look at the distribution of cost based on duration. Then this one will form part of the monitoring tools as for tender as well. So after everything is done, we can actually come here and print it out. And not only we can use it for tender stage, in the post-contract stage, if we need to actually use it updated based on our actual work progress, we can always switch it to actual progress view. That's where the progress will be updated as per whatever has been planned. So, ladies and gentlemen, the idea that I'm having to share with you all on all this Gantt chart and S-curve was based on the experience last time when we were involved in a project. Then we always take a look at project manager or contractor has to come up with a Gantt chart, and usually the S-curve will be only produced by our contract manager when the job has been awarded. There is actually a gap in between, which I feel that there is a need to fill it in so that these two charts are talking on the same language. So as what we can see from the video just now, these two charts in BuildSpace are actually generated based on the same set of BQ. That's why whatever thing that been changes in the Gantt chart will be also directly reflecting on the S-curve. Now, it will also minimize the assumptions that we made on different parts of the work, because always there will be only one source of truth when it comes to planning that we had done for our tender. So in the post-contract stage, as far as post-contract stage is concerned, then we also want to talk about improved productivity and also keeping our documentations and record, and also how to manage our claims and together as part of the record team. We started with improve productivity, and I put up a chart for you to see. If let's say the work for demolitions that we're going to do, like we have workers, 2 Tao Chu in Hokkien, it means the leader, and 4 general workers. Now the daily wages in average and for option 1's standard provisions are 100 ringgit, 80 ringgit, 40, 40, 40, 40. We're talking about a total of 340 per day. Assuming this work has to be done in 8 days, and this is the base that we have. When it comes to base of the cost, there will be usually the amount of money that we're actually locked in our contract. Now, by the time we look at productivity, we also want to look at different options and see how much saving we're talking about. Say options number 2, we have optimized resources. Say we might not need our Tao Chu to be on the site full day, then we might reduce a bit of allocation for them. Then we're talking about the saving of 12%. Another way of looking at productivity when it comes to work itself is also option 3, where we increase the output. When we increase the output, the total of working days has been reduced to 7 days. Then we're talking about savings of 23%. Now, I just want to refresh a bit of memory of what we had explained just now. Say profit equals to revenue minus expenses. When we have the fixed amount of revenue being booked, like the contract amount, and we can control our expenses, that would directly increase our profit. In this case, we might also want to look at our subcon, how to choose our subcon who can offer not only the quality of the work, but we also want to look at what is the best offer that the subcon can actually offer us to secure our profitability. As far as BuildSpace Pro is concerned, we do have a functions which allow the contractors to split out the BQ and then to send out subcons BQ for them to pricing easily in a digital format. This is what we usually do in Excel. We tend to cut and paste, but we tend to also forget some of the items and lose out some of the items and forget the formulas. Now, what we need to do right here is just to import whatever thing that we already have it in our BQ, and then assign the tenderers collectively to send out the BQs right here. So if we take a look at the BQs that we already have in Build 1, then some of the items all these items with the same nature to be subbed out completely is gathered up together. What we need to do is just to select our tenderers and save and select a few more, and then we send out the BQ in Excel format, which is logged for them to price. So once we have done, what we need to do is just to click on this, the names here, and then we click export and import Excel, and then to save it in an Excel file to be sent out for them to price. As what we usually do in Excel form, but just that this Excel format that we're going to send out is actually locked, and the subcon can only price in the rate column that we allow them to do so. Like what we're seeing on the screen here is always a yellow color, and the formulas are all up. So our subconference just need to put in the rates that we have, and then all this amount will be carried forward to the end and save and send it back to us as the contractors. And what we need to do is just to import back into system right here, and then start to do comparisons. So we can actually see that the whole process of having this being done doesn't really require us to create a new bill or to type a lot of things, because everything is being linked together. So when things has been imported back into the system, we can actually have a side-by-side comparisons of this is our estimate in our BQs that we have, and also some of the rates that we compare side by side. Along the way that the work is going to proceed in the post-contract stage, then we can always look at our budget report and see what is our revenue and also what is our budget right here, as you can see from the screen, and also what is our subcon budget. Take for example, all this item has been sub out to our subcons, and contract quantities, subcon quantities, progress quantity, contract rates, budget rate, and subcon rates, and revenue and budget and whatnot. Everything is inside one place for us to play around and for us to monitor what is our current standing of the performance in terms of financial. So when it's done, we also want to take a look at the functions that we have in BuildSpace, where in reflect to what we had discussed just now, we want to talk about to do output quantity measurement as soon as we are available, to not to say too late, because most of the contractor friends that we have, we only engage some freelance or our colleague to do our measurement when we have the free time. But this is definitely not a good idea to do that, because as soon as we know the quantity inside the BQ, then we will know the error, the margin, then we can also plan accordingly to cover if we need to do so. Okay, so the amount that we can see, if let's say by default all these contract quantities will be an omission, then the new quantity will be an addition. Then we can straight away come out with the difference in terms of the contract amount, which is the new contract amount based on new quantities. Now, as far as documentation and record keeping is concerned, then I also want to share with you something that we found in the research paper. We say top 10 documents supporting litigations. I do have some friends online with me today, probably doing research for your 5-year and also proposing some topics for your research, and probably want to look at this one. Now, top 10 documents supporting litigation, the thing that we highlight in red color right here, say contractor quotes, contract milestone, following record instructions, minutes, and shop drawings. Those are the documents and records we can always collect and also gather in post-contract stage. Now, since post-contract stage has been discussed in this one, then we might want to discuss these two together, because usually we will need record and also document to support our claims. So in this part of the introduction on the BuildSpace, we want to take a look at how can we easily manage our variations. Unlike usually what we did in Excel, BuildSpace allows the variation order to be kept together in one same platform. If we take a look at the interface that we have, we will have attachment here. When we'll talk about it, how can we download the documents later, and also the omission, addition, and also the status, and most importantly is the updated time right here. Now, if we double click to come in, and this is where we tackle item by item, then with the corresponding reference of bills. Then what we need to do is just to put in the quantities and put in the new quantities, and this is where we will get the new amount of addition and omission without needing us to still set out the formulas. Now, at any point of time along the way that we want to download and also to review some of the documents, we can always download from the system itself, because since everything has been stored in cloud, and if we wish to upload it, and we can still upload to the same platform right here. Now, assuming this VO has already been processed, then we will actually change the status into pending, and then this is where we will require, we can actually transfer the same set of information to our payment right here. So as far as payment is concerned, what we usually do in Excel is we will maintain it in different Excel forms and different Excel documents when it comes to payment 1, payment 2, payment 3, payment 4. Well, the shortfalls we're having doing this one is we won't be able to tell the trends of the things being changed along the way, along the time. Now, please take a look at what we can actually update the payment in BuildSpace. What we can do is we can straight away change in the bill element level, or if it's not, if we want it to be more detailed, we can always dive into the level where we can update it on the item level. On the item level, then we can also take a look at how can we update the cost, whether by percentage or by quantities or even by the amount itself in collectively. Now, having this been done, I want to share with you this one. If we only use Excel to do it, then we can only set one type of formula. If we want to do it in such a way, then we need to set another type of formula. But the good thing about this being done in BuildSpace is either way that we used to do, then we always at different types of percentage, and we can still keep the same batch of information then to maintain it along the way. Now, the beauty of having this done in BuildSpace is we always get to know what is the amount of certified. We always maintain a list, and then we always have a date of what is maintained in the cloud. So after we have done, we can also proceed with printing out our certificate of payment, where most of our information for contractual has already been captured, and also our claims and also miscellaneous items, including advance payment, deposit, material on site, Gong, and work on behalf and others, and everything is customized and to suit your format. Now, as far as what we're concerned in monitoring the post-contract cost just now, as what we have seen earlier just now, we want to also explain in detail. If let's say things has been changed along the way, then we will only maintain one subcons rate, and this is how we manage the difference in between our revenue and budget, and also the progress revenue. Okay, so when it comes to finance part, along the way, when we usually encounter some of the requests for variations, then we'll also been required to get some quotation for our new works. And the best thing I'm doing this one in BuildSpace is we can always create a quotation based on the BQs that we have, and then put in the quantities for our suppliers, and then send out to them for quotation in Excel format, like what we have seen in subcontract package just now. We can also put in remarks to inform them of certain notifications. Now, when it comes to choosing a supplier, we can always choose from our list, where after choosing, then what we need to do is just to export these items in form of Excel, then we can send it out to them to pricing accordingly. So when the supplier and also the specialist got this quotation from us, what they need to do is just still putting in the rates that we have, and then sending back to us by using emails. And what we need to do is just to import the supplier rates into the system, and we can actually start to use the rate to build up our new build up rates, and then to start to use it for the current project or even for upcoming project. And the beauty of having this all done is this is how we continuously maintain our resources library along the way the project is going on. As you can see now right here, when we double click in, then we have the latest rate of ABC construction that come back to us with the latest rate, and we can use this rate to do a lot of build up rates or also monitoring as a benchmark as well. Okay, so to conclude this part, as record management being defined by lifeblood is to help us to expose errors, as what we can see here, and also ways and prevent financial losses in an organization. Now, that's explained also why it is always not a good idea to have our records to be stored in different servers or different platforms in Excel, in Word, in PDF. The best thing is, of course, we want to have it consolidated so that we can have a more comprehensive and objective insights on what is happening and also to analyze the trend. Now, as what we have done usually back in the days when we rely heavily on Excel, then this is a cycle that go on and on in a post-contract stage. We will always prepare our payment, also our claims, our submissions in Excel, and then we'll require to print it out. And once we print it out, then we'll be delivered by hand to QS. So once QS done its part of work, then you have to go to QS office and then to collect from them and then deliver to architect's office. Now, once architect has approved, then what we need to do is to go to architect's office and also to collect from them and send to client's office. And this thing goes on and on and on. And we can only come back to our office desk to update project data. Now, usually by request of the top management, then we need to prepare another set of support to monitor the deviations. Now, on all these videos, all these clips that we have shared with you just now, we will be only looking at one thing, is on how to streamline the work process that we have to collaborate in cloud. That means by the use of BuildSpace will allow people to actually come into BuildSpace in the same platform to collaborate, and with that being done, everything and every data being generated in the project itself can be saved in one place for everyone to access with control and also authorities. With that being tabulated out and scheduled out, and everyone who has the access to come into the system will be able to monitor the deviations. When it comes to monitor the deviations, in next week, the session will be also talk about how can we use the project management dashboard to how to manage our project in overall in a more holistic way. Now, as I mentioned earlier at the beginning, today is actually what has been planned is for us to have a seminar in Redar. Then actually we also want to talk about the need for digitalization. So what has been done to put things into the cloud and to relate to us who stay at home, to work at home, I believe we slowly start to understand there is a need for us to go digitalized. Even we ourselves has to sign off for webinar and then start to put this thing online, then we will definitely see that there's a need to do so. But if we talk about the digitalization based on different roles in the organization, of course, we're going to talk about the top management being able to monitor the business performance and also to be making decisions based on a more reliable source. As a business unit manager, we want to pull our people together to work and to minimize the hiccups when it comes to delivery. As a digital strategist, I believe most of you have it in your company, and some of the firms that we have today were from developer firms. And having a digital strategist will also allows us to collect all this data when it's required, and also for our future planning. But all the way down to our employee is to be empowered to deliver the quality of the work. Now, as far as the empowerment of the employees and users, this is always our IT philosophies that we have in BuildSpace. The main idea of BuildSpace being designed is to empower our friends to ease out their work by provisions or solutions to support and allow people to work in the cloud and also to save our things in the cloud, and then to actually realize to make it realistic for automation of the process. And ultimately, we want to achieve digital transformation in the construction industry. So we would take one step at a time, then this is our role to do it. Now, what we have seen so far today is basically BuildSpace Pro. Now, since we're about towards the end of this presentation today, well, allow me to discuss a little bit about BuildSpace Pro. Back in year 2011, when JKR has an initiative called NETI, which is National E-Tender Initiatives, to be launched, and this is how BuildSpace came in with BuildSpace Pro. That means when BuildSpace Pro is created, then everything is set in mind that we want to prepare something which is ready for e-tender to be used. So along the way, all these years, the R&D has been done. We start to develop a complementing system. We call it BuildSpace E-Project, where we do have a project dashboard and e-tender management and cost data population and thing to complete the whole ecosystem of the management of development project, which next week our discussion will be discussing on the entire scope of BuildSpace, and then to look at how is the overall ecosystem in construction industry, then development project can actually be part of the system itself. Now, allow me to do a little bit of advertisement. So thank you for being with us. And since now it's the MCO, then BuildSpace is part of our CSR. We also came out with MCO support promotion. If you want to find out more detail, you can always come out to our website right here. We just have a website being redesigned, and then it's a fresh look. Then please log in there to help us to generate a bit of traffic, please. And up next, we still have 2 sessions, and to complete the whole value delivery and knowledge sharing, then we're talking about in terms of developers' perspective, how can we manage the risk of development project at the early stage by having the system in place. And also next Tuesday, we'll be also talking about how to use Cloud BQ as part of our work as the perspective of quantity surveyors. Now, I might need a little bit help from all of you to help us to improve. You can actually scan the QR code right here and send some feedback to us and let me know how well am I presenting or how well you like the presentations. And I believe we have some times here to address to your questions, and let me check if I have it. Oh, that's quite. Okay, so there's no questions on to be sent from the host, but if you have, then you can always come back to us. You can always come back to us on our website and also our emails right here. And since you have, if you wish to have a separate personal calls on Teams or Skype, then always let us know, then we can schedule a presentation to you and your team if you find this is helpful for you today. So with that, I will end this discussion and presentation. So thank you so much, and please stay safe at home. And I hope by the time I see you, we're all healthy. Thank you. I'll be still on the screen. Then if you have any questions, then you can always send. Then I have my colleague standby, then he will be sending me over WhatsApp. Then we see people start to leave already. So still we do have a bit of time. Then if anything want to discuss with me, then I'm available. Or you can text me by WhatsApp. Hmm. Or if you feel too shy to submit a question, you can always send to our feedback form right there. Then I think that will be also good for our record, and we can always reply you in a formal way. So I guess that's it. So I thank you everyone once again. It's very happy to see. No, it's not to see. But thank you for being here to see me. Thank you so much. Who can see you? Hi, Winnie. Hi, all my friends. Let me stop the screen. I'm still finding out how to do it. No, I just covered.